not sure about how I'm feeling about working outside. I don't have a fuel gauge, and it's terrifying because I don't know if the light works. My biggest ever fail. So here is my cheap Transporter T5, which I picked up for £3,000. Bought this for initially just to carry my motorbike around, but since I bought it, I fell in love with it, and we're actually doing a series rebuilding it on the cheap. So today we're going to be carrying on this series, rebuilding this cheap Transporter T5 on a budget with the help from eBay. Now, I built this car predominantly from parts from eBay. We did this engine swap in my 190e predominantly using parts from eBay. And it's going to be the same story we're here. We're going to rebuild this Transporter using parts from eBay. So it's a lovely day. We're going to actually do these jobs outside on the Transporter, mainly because this van's so bloody big we can't get it in the unit. Let's go and get the parts we're going to do today. Let's crack on, shall we? So the first job we're going to do is we need to change all the brakes all the way around. There is a huge lip on this back disc, and the front discs are not in much of a better shape as it is. First thing we got here is a full set of brake discs and brake pads. The good thing about eBay is they have something called assured fit, which means you can put your car, your registration, and it will tell you if the parts are 100% going to fit or not. Now, not only that, is that you can get parts a lot cheaper on eBay than a lot of mainstream retailers. So just having the fact that it will tell you if it's going to fit or not, and it's cheaper, is a huge benefit. Because it's guaranteed to fit your vehicle, if it doesn't, you can return the item for free, giving you confidence when buying car parts. And until September the 15th, they are doing 20% off on all tuning and styling parts. Click the link in the description below. So the first step is to jack up the van with a jack that works. This is a good jack, isn't it? Once you've got a jack that works, start taking the wheel off. I know most of the people that watch my channel are actually quite good at working on cars, so I'm not going to tell you how to suck lemons, but let's change these brake discs. We're actually changing the pads and the discs, so it doesn't necessarily matter if we kind of scrape the disc a little bit. So to make this easier, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to push the piston back just by using the disc. So if you get a little screwdriver and just tap it between the brake disc and the pad, you can actually make a little bit of an opening, and you can get something bigger in there, like a bar like this, and then do the same thing. And then you can actually just lever, it will just pop the piston back in. The whole point of me buying this van was mainly to carry the motorbike around in, but I eventually did want to tow with it as well, as I could fit all the tools in a lot easier, and I could fit a double bed in there a lot easier as well to sleep in. But I just did not feel confident towing with the Transporter the way it is now, because the brakes are really bad, and I do think something is a bit wrong somewhere, so we need to do this. Everything's so much bigger than cars. I think this is the first time I've actually worked in a van, and everything's just massive. Like, look at the size. This retaining knot here, I don't even know if I've got that size bloody tool. So when you're not working on a lot of German stuff, especially VWs and Audis, they like to use something called a multi-spline. A multi-spline are a triple square, and it's basically like a Torx, but double the amount of teeth. And it's only really VWs that use them. Quite annoying. But you can buy sets like this, and you can actually get these on eBay really cheap as well. I think this was like £15 or something, so definitely worth it. And you've actually got a load of hexes in there, Torxes, and all the multi-splines that you need as well. Try not to use any kind of sidewards torque, so a gun is perfect for this. If you use a ratchet, the multi-spline ones aren't as bad, but if it's the Torx or anything in here, try to use a gun, because the more when you turn, it wants to kind of round it. And then the disc should just pop off. So after a bit of cleaning with the wire wheel, we're going to put the two discs up together and make sure that they will actually fit. Make sure they're the same, and of course they are, because we use assured fit. We can actually start putting the brakes back together. Now, some Transporters came with a brake wear sensor, and some Transporter T5s didn't. Mine doesn't, my old pads don't, and I don't actually have the wiring inside the car for it. So all we're going to do is we're going to chop this off. And after a bit more cleaning, we can get on to the argument. Do you use copper grease on your brakes? I've seen both sides of the argument. I've seen a lot of people say copper grease don't come from brakes on the factory, why use it? But then in my case, I'm always working on shit. I always like to use a bit of copper grease. So we can put the caliper back on, tighten everything down, and then that is our front brakes done. Hopefully we can get the back done just as quick. Now the backs are by far the worst out of two of them. And after actually I drive the car quite a distance, I can still see quite a bit of like rust on the brake disc. Now that could just be that the warp and the brake pads aren't touching the full disc all the way around, or it could be the fact that the actual piston might be a little bit stuck. So this is the most important thing that I need to do, because the back brakes are by far the worst. They are going to be somewhat similar to the fronts, but you have got the handbrake involved, and you usually have to wind back the back piston instead of pushing it in. So it's a little bit different procedure, and we need a little bit of a different tool as well. One thing I hate about this car is the rear suspension. It's on a really cheap coilovers, and the rear end just knocks all over the place. To me, it sounds like the springs touching and the springs binding. It's a really like loud knocking noise. Really big lip on this disc, and it's scoring all over it, so I'm really glad we're changing this. So it's a very similar process to the fronts, it's just the bolts might be a little bit different. Now the front pistons are actually pushing, so you can literally just get a big grip or do what I did and push them in, but the rears are actually wind back, so they're actually on a spline inside here. So if you just push this, it will not move. It has to be pushed in and spun at the same time. So this is where you get this, which is called a wind back tool. So the idea of that is that this presses against this side of the caliper, and then you basically wind it against itself, and it'll wind back in the piston. Now my Transport had a brake wear sensor on the back, but luckily enough, the new pads that I ordered came with brake wear sensors on the back pads. And that was pretty much it. As far as brakes go, that was actually quite a simple one considering the age of the car. I've sometimes had brakes that can be an absolute nightmare, like bolts rounded, things seized, pistons seized, rubbers split, but we're 75% of the way through and everything's been okay. So I'm going to go and do the other side, and well, now I've said it, I'm probably going to have an issue, but touch wood, we don't have any issue on the other side. Right, that's the last one done. All brakes are done. Not sure about how I'm feeling about working outside. Kind of like the fresh air, kind of like the breeze. I'm not sure about it, Sit on the floor, not about it. Not about it, guys. So what I'm going to just drop on the floor, take it for a quick test drive, make sure that the brakes are okay. And we'll carry on with what we got. There was definitely an issue before, because I've literally not even bedded them in yet, and whoa! So there was definitely some kind of issue with the brakes, because they feel amazing. I would be comfortable towing now, but I would not be comfortable towing before. Well, I wouldn't be comfortable towing because it's still slow, it's really slow, but we're going to actually put a map on it, and hopefully I can tow with it then, because I can use the X5 less. Because obviously look at all the space I've got, do you know what I mean? I'm just ruining the X5 by throwing all the tools in it. So, but like now, I would be confident stopping with a trailer now, which and they've not even bedded in yet. I've literally drove about 10 meters, so they're gonna feel amazing once I've bedded them in. So not only can you fix cars, build cars, and maintain cars on here, you can actually modify them as well. So we've actually picked up a front splitter for the Transporter as well. Now, I did say a few videos ago, I'm not fully sure what I'm going to be doing with the front end, whether I'm going to just be painting it white or whether I'm going to be wrapping the whole car in this grey. I do think I'm going to be painting it white just because it's a lot simpler. I hate wrapping cars, I hate the process of wrapping cars, I hate dealing with a wrapped car. I just don't like wrapping cars, and especially when it's not a car, but it's a van. Not only is it going to take twice as long to wrap the whole car, it's also going to be twice as expensive. And I actually quite, I don't know, I would love to wrap it, but my budget says just paint it, Lee. But I'm not fully sure what we're going to be doing yet, so let's just install the front end, install the splitter, we can remove it, and then we'll actually figure out what we're going to do with the front end. Oh yeah, shiny. Now this splitter actually came in 3 pieces, which I wasn't too pleased with when I opened the box, but I'm guessing that's just so they could post it to me easier. But to be fair, once you screw it together, it actually looks really good. Two ways you can fit a splitter. Some will tell you you're right, some will tell you you're wrong. Now there was actually a fitting clip included in this splitter, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the strength at the sides and just bolt it at the sides, and I'm just going to use some self-tappers along the front to make this job very easy. There is the splitter on the front of the Transporter, dead easy to do. I mean, in theory, you could just self-tap the whole thing, but I like to add just a little bit of a safety, so I've put some 2 proper bolts at the bottom, so worst case scenario, it will really never fly off the car. I always like to put 2 bolts, at least 2 bolts like that. There's one more thing which a lot of people actually overlook. I hate it when cars come with these like horrible old style wiper blades. Just makes the whole front end look like 10 years older, and it's so easy to do and so easy to change. The annoying thing is that actually buying wiper blades isn't that cheap. You know, sometimes it's about 40 or 50 quid for some wiper blades if you get them from the usual place where you go and buy wiper blades. That's what's another good thing about eBay. You can literally get them half price. Fitting wiper blades is actually the easiest thing you can do to your car. When I used to work at one of the shops that used to fit wiper blades to people, I was astounded by how many people actually came in and paid somebody to fit your wiper blades. It takes 2 seconds. Pull it up, put it to the side, push it down, and it is literally as simple as that. Because these are retrofit, if you get them out, they potentially might look a little bit different and you think, oh, what the hell's going on here? It's not, it's just because it likes to cover that old style mounting. So all you got to do, pop this bit up and then just do the exact same thing. Put it in, give it a bit of a wiggle until it clicks, push it down, bosh. So that's all the eBay parts that we've actually got to fit today to the Transporter, but it's not the end of the video. Probably my biggest ever fail I've ever done working on a car, but
we've actually got to go back in time a few months where this big mistake actually happened. For the time being, don't forget to check out eBay where you can find the right part at the right price, and don't forget to shop tuning and styling parts for an extra 20% off until the 15th of September.
Which is worrying, is that, do you see my fuel gauge reads 0? Ever since I put the facelift on, I don't have a fuel gauge, and it's terrifying because I don't know if the light works. Obviously I know the fuel gauge isn't working, but I don't know if the light's going to come up tell me I've got 50 miles left. And it's a bit risky to risk it in a diesel because you don't really want to be running out of fuel in a diesel. So one guy on the pages said he put the lights in the wrong way like I did, and it ended up like blowing something in the back of the dash. Well, I don't know, let's put it on the live data and let's see how much fuel, and let's run it down and see if the actual fuel light comes on, because right now I'm literally guessing the dark. I have to put 20 quid in and then just like tap my miles, and then when I get to 100 miles just put another 20 quid in. Now I can't carry the motorbike around this right now because it's got some kind of a camper conversion. Obviously it's a little bit ghetto, but it works. I slept in it the other night, it was great. But we obviously can't put the motorbike in it with it like this. So we need to take all this out right now because I put the bike in for an MOT today and it needs to get there today. So first of all, before we can actually make the camper conversion ourselves, we're going to do something ourselves, we need to get everything out, see where the bike fits, and then we need to make our own camper conversion around the motorbike. So first of all, we need to get all of this out. So let me go and get a gun and a Phillips screwdriver. Came with these cushions which obviously pull out and it folds into a double bed. So I'm going to try and keep these cushions, so I can't imagine them being cheap. But we're going to keep them for now anyway. But we need to unassemble all of this. And I've never done anything like this before, but it's wood. How hard can it be, right? Well, actually, every time I say how hard can it be, it's always hard to be. Don't want to completely ruin all this. My idea is to recycle as much of this wood as possible. So we're going to keep everything, and I'm going to try and not ruin it by getting it out.
Now, I have never worked with wood in my entire life and I have no idea what I'm doing, but right now the job is simple. Get things out. So anytime it's a screw, I'm going to remove it. Now, the deeper I'm going into this, the more I realise that someone has actually put quite a lot of time into this, and I'm actually starting to feel a little bit bad ripping it all out, I'm not going to lie.
Something broke then.
Now, my plan was going to be remove everything in there now, put the motorbike in, and then make some kind of camper conversion around the motorbike so I can sleep in there with or without the motorbike. But the more I'm taking out, the more I'm realising how much goes into this. And this is just a visual of me getting a little bit worried.
So she's in. She does look pretty big in there. But my plan is that if we can force it to one side, I'm guessing because the exhaust is here, we're probably better putting it over this side of the van, ratcheting it, strap it right to the side. And then my plan is I can have 2 pieces of wood like this. I'm going to have 2 pieces of wood coming out which can fold up against the side. So it'll fold up here and it'll fold up here and it'll be hinged to the side. And then if it's just a camper, I can put both pieces of wood down. I can have a double bed. If it's with the bike in, I'm going to have the bike over to one side and I can drop one side of the wood and have a single bed. So it won't be that difficult. I just need to make beds on a hinge to here. So we'll hinge it here so we come like this. And then I can have legs which hinge up and then hinge down and lock. So what the plan is, it'll be like this, as a single bed, it hinge up and then hinge up.
Oh, simple. Absolutely simple.
It's gonna be the bed. We're gonna hinge it to here, so this can do this. And then this is gonna be the leg of the bed. We're gonna hinge it to here on a lockable hinge. So when we lift it up, we can put the legs down, and when we want to bring the bed down, we put the legs out, and we bring it down, and it's going to sit like that, right? Obviously higher, it's going to be up here. And then we can put one on each side, and then we've got double bed, single bed, or whatever. Now, I did ask someone yesterday who's done some camper van conversions. He said, don't measure it perfectly. You have to leave a gap. If you measure it perfectly like this, if you're parked on a slant, the body flexes, and instead of coming together, it'll sit on top of each other like that. So we're gonna have to leave a bit of a gap, but we're not there yet anyway. So we can't bolt that to the wood. Well, we probably could, but I don't trust it. So we're gonna have to bolt it to the inner frame. So we're gonna take this wood off and see where that inner frame of metal sits.
So the inner frame is basically a stronger bit of metal which will actually be strong enough to bolt things to. I'm just hoping it's in the right position for the size of the bed that we need.
I've actually got these holes, sorry about the noise, there's a truck out here. So I've actually got these holes all along the frame. I can't see why we can't just put a rib nut in there, and then that's where we can put our hinges, and that's where we can hinge across, because that is going to be quite a nice kind of height, to be fair. And we could fit loads underneath, we can get all the tools underneath there, and we have the bed, and that won't be too long for a leg. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start the old frame that we took off, which pretty much was a bed. I'm going to start seeing if I can somewhat rebuild that and just use that frame as a bed.
Word of warning, all carpenters, please stop watching at this point, or if you want some free comedy, please continue. So this was the old main bed frame, so I'm going to be taking it apart to try to reuse any wood that I can to make myself a flat, foldable bed.
So we can actually have something like this. If we put that together, that's going to be our bed frame. And then one side we can have is we can have things like this, which on hinges which go up and down, like that. And these are going to be bolted to the frame to be strong, and that can be our foldable bed, right? Now the one thing I need to know is, do we use nails or do we screw them in? I don't know.
So even seeing that absolute catastrophic attempt of making a bed frame, I still decided to carry on, and for some reason I'm measuring the width of the van so that I can make the two double beds. Oh my god, what am I doing? So for the next couple of hours I decided that since I could build cars, I could easily make a bed frame out of wood, and I proceeded to carry on thinking I was in 60-minute makeover, and then I think reality hit after a couple of hours.
This is what it was made out of. It's well thin, doesn't it? Is it?
Doesn't look very strong, does it?
It doesn't look very strong.
And did you never learn in school? Triangulate makes it stronger. And
But what? This was the bed that he made out of. Why was it so strong?
I don't know. Was he 2 foot tall?
No, it was solid.
Was it?
I jumped in it and everything, but it was like to the floor. I knew this one wasn't going to work. I just thought, let's just give it a go. And
It doesn't look very strong, does it?
it doesn't look very strong. How can I make it strong though? I've got some YouTube videos, eh?
Yeah.
This is where I'm at with it. To be, I mean, I kind of just wanted to have a go and see what worked and what didn't work. I think it needs to be a hell of a lot stronger wood, to be fair. And also the cross sections that Ronnie did say a minute ago, the cross sections helped massively. It's actually quite sturdy, to be honest, but I wouldn't trust it at all. So I'm gonna go watch some YouTube videos and see what the best way to make this bed is, because that just doesn't seem sturdy enough to me. So I'm gonna go and watch some people and what have they done. Right now I've got to get all this wood back in the back of the transporter. Not sure if we're going to reuse it, but I'd rather have it, and then we can see what the hell's going on. So I love you all. I'm going to pack away. We'll see you in the next one.